Hey Kaiju fans, it's Titanollante, and the focus of today's video is trying to clear up several misconceptions or illogical theories that seem to plague the Godzilla fandom. So we're here to bust some of the more basic Godzilla myths. So with that said, does Godzilla beat King Kong in the Japanese version of King Kong vs. Godzilla? In a 1963 issue of the American fanzine Spaceman, an article on King Kong vs. Godzilla concluded with an erroneous claim that would endure for decades. Two endings have been filmed, and if you see King Kong vs. Godzilla in Japan, Hong Kong, or some oriental sector of the world, Godzilla wins. On the other hand, in the USA and England, for instance, Kong wins. Spaceman's source for this information is unknown, as even Toho's 1963 international sales brochure makes it clear that Kong is the victor in the original version of the film. The actual differences in the endings of the Japanese and American versions are minimal. Well, in the Japanese version, the characters propose it is possible that Godzilla survived the battle. In the US version, they merely state that they hope they've seen the last of him.
Kong is swimming safely out to sea. No Godzilla.
That's wonderful. I hope we've seen the last of them for a long time.
Godzilla's roar is also not heard over the end title card, while it is present in the Japanese version after Kong's. So while it was always the case that Kong won the battle, interestingly, Tomoyuki Tanaka retroactively changed the outcome of the fight to being a draw in the book Definitive Edition Godzilla Introduction. So there are different sources that say that Kong was the winner or that the fight was a draw, but there is nothing that says that Godzilla won. Is Godzilla Jr. the 1999 Godzilla? Okay, so some people think that Godzilla Jr. from the Heisei series turns into the Godzilla from Godzilla 2000 Millennium because of the ending of Godzilla vs. Destoroyah, which shows Jr. alive, turned into an adult Godzilla after he absorbs his father's radiation after the meltdown. Seems to make sense superficially, right? After Godzilla Jr. becomes the new Godzilla, he returns in the next Godzilla movie. Simply put, however, this isn't true. Never mind the fact that there isn't any confirmation about these two Godzillas being the same. The opposite is true. Godzilla.jp, the official Godzilla website, confirms that the Godzilla in Godzilla 2000 is the second Godzilla in that film's continuity after the original Godzilla that attacked in 1954. Meanwhile, Godzilla Jr. was the third Godzilla in the Heisei continuity. Also, yes, the Heisei series had 3 Godzillas. That's another misconception entirely, where some people think that the 1954 Godzilla and the Heisei Godzillas are the same. To put it simply, the 1954 Godzilla and the Heisei Godzilla are separate. And the most basic proof of this are these lines in Godzilla vs. Destoroyah.
It was the exact site where the first Godzilla was killed about 40 years ago, right?
We must kill him the way we killed the first Godzilla.
You can't!
The oxygen destroyer.
Of course, the entire Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah time travel debacle confuses everyone, and we have a breakdown of what happens as a result of the time traveling in a separate video, which you can watch right here. On to the next one. Is Godzilla Jr. the 2004 Godzilla? The next most popular theory about who Godzilla Jr. becomes posits that the Monster Prince becomes the Godzilla from Godzilla Final Wars. This theory stems from stock footage of Godzilla Jr.'s rebirth being shown on top of Godzilla being frozen in ice at the beginning of Godzilla Final Wars. However, the Heisei series and Godzilla Final Wars share no continuity and are not connected. The reason why this shot was chosen was most likely because it was a great triumphant shot of Godzilla to end the montage with. It is impossible for this Godzilla to be Jr., as the film establishes that this Godzilla first appeared in 1954.
The king of monsters that appeared in 1954 and has since regularly threatened man's very existence on this planet. Its name is...
While Jr. wasn't born until 1994. All the Heisei movies take place 1 year after the movie is actually released. So there really isn't anything even supporting this theory at all, since nothing adds up. And the reason this theory exists in the first place is ridiculous. Did Godzilla become God Godzilla in a manga? God Godzilla, or alternatively Almighty Deity Godzilla, is a supposed omnipotent version of Godzilla and is arguably the biggest manga-related misconception in the Godzilla fandom. In an Ultra 7 doujinshi titled Worst Case Invasion of Earth, a monster fans refer to as God Godzilla appears. This monster is a special version of Godzilla who has King Ghidorah-like wings that form a cape. God Godzilla only appears in a single scene and is shown standing among several Ultra Series kaiju who are looking up at him, while Ultra 7 stands at God Godzilla's feet, dwarfed by the kaiju's giant size. So, seems legit, right? It's actually not. God Godzilla is not official because, as I said earlier, it comes from a doujinshi, which is a term used for fan-made manga. Another example of this would be the IDW artist Matt Frank's The Last Hope, an American doujinshi about Gamera. Worst Case Invasion of Earth is not an officially licensed comic, and was created by 2 experienced artists in Japan. God Godzilla is not to be confused with King Godzilla, who is an official Godzilla monster, an evil clone of Godzilla possessing the DNA of King Ghidorah, Biollante, and Batra, appearing in a licensed manga series by Kodansha. Given the existence of something as bizarre as King Godzilla, it wouldn't be much of a stretch to assume that there was indeed an omnipotent Godzilla in a manga. However, it's not the case. Was Godzilla named after a real person? A rather common misconception suggests that Godzilla's name was taken from the nickname of a burly member of staff at Toho's Tokyo studio. However, it's just a widespread fact that Godzilla's Japanese name, Gojira, is derived from the Japanese words for gorilla, gorira, and whale, kujira. There is simply no evidence of the existence of a person with the nickname Gojira working for Toho, nor that Godzilla was even named after him. Does Godzilla 2014 have gills? Yes, the legendary Godzilla does have gills. They are laid out like those of large fish such as sharks at the side of his neck. No, they are not overlapping plates. Godzilla designer Christian Pierce admitted in an interview with FX Guide that they gave Godzilla gills. Here's the excerpt where he says this. But before getting angry at the fact that Legendary somehow destroyed Godzilla's legacy by giving him something he would need to be able to breathe underwater for the millions of years he spent there, did you know that Godzilla 2014 isn't the only Godzilla to have gills? Shin Godzilla, and more shockingly, the Showa Godzilla, also have gills. Sounds like I just made that up, right? Makes sense that Shin Godzilla would have gills. But the Showa Godzilla? If you look at any Showa Godzilla suits, you can't see any gills. Well, in Definitive Edition Godzilla Introduction, a book written by Godzilla creator Tomoyuki Tanaka himself and re-released over a dozen times throughout the years, states this as a fact. Spherical-like structures at the base of Showa Godzilla's neck serve as his gills. While from a biological standpoint these organs don't resemble what typical gills are, that's the purpose they serve nonetheless. Also, while yes, in the real world, these are just air holes for Haruo Nakajima to breathe through, these holes have been explained in-universe as being Godzilla's gills, a clever way to integrate a feature of the suit into the actual monster's biology. If you think about it logically, it only makes sense for Godzilla to have gills anyway, since he literally lives underwater. Still, most Godzillas do not have confirmed gills. Also, since we were just speaking about the 2016 Godzilla, is Shin Godzilla a mutated colony of microorganisms? This misconception arises from early mistranslations of the description of what the 2016 Godzilla is. The Godzilla featured in Shin Godzilla is an unspecified type of prehistoric marine animal that became heavily mutated after feeding on nuclear waste dumped into its habitat in the 1950s. The creature mutated rapidly over a period of 60 years, eventually coming ashore and continuing to mutate until it took the recognizable form of Godzilla. While the exact type of animal this Godzilla originated from is never discussed in the film, an essay written from an in-universe perspective by the character Goro Maki, included with the film's Blu-ray release, suggests that the creature's base form likely possessed large teeth and fangs, and was, in all likelihood, closely related to prehistoric marine reptiles, which first emerged in the Paleozoic era. This misconception likely arose due to Godzilla being referred to as a mixotroph, an organism that is able to use a mix of different forms of energy and carbon in the film. Because many mixotrophs are microorganisms, some fans apparently assume that this Godzilla is the result of several mixotrophic microorganisms being mutated by nuclear waste on the seafloor and combining into a superorganism. It should be noted, however, that there exist many multicellular mixotrophs as well, such as the Venus flytrap or Oriental hornet. The film does not ever suggest that Godzilla originated as a microorganism, and as previously mentioned, states that he was a type of marine animal, likely a reptile. following with this information, it would not be likely that Shin Godzilla was a frilled shark. Godzilla's second form's design was inspired by a frilled shark, but Godzilla himself was not a mutated one of these creatures. Are the MUTOs an adaptation of an existing Toho Kaiju? It is commonly believed by those unfamiliar with the Godzilla franchise that MUTOs, Godzilla's opponents in the 2014 film, are meant to be an adaptation of an existing Toho Kaiju, usually either Mothra, Gigan, or Rodan. The MUTOs are actually original monsters created by Legendary Pictures specifically for the film, and not directly based on an existing monster from the Godzilla series, due to Legendary Pictures not holding the rights to any monsters aside from Godzilla himself. Bear in mind that by MUTOs, we mean the species of creature that Godzilla 2014 fights. In the MonsterVerse, all giant monsters are called MUTOs until they're given a definite name. These MUTOs just never got a real name. Anyways, much of the confusion regarding Mothra being a MUTO comes from the male MUTO's winged appearance and emergence from a chrysalis-like structure, as well as a rumored post-credit scene from the film reported by the website K-Drama Stars, which supposedly featured Mothra leading an army of MUTOs. The scene in question was a hoax fabricated by the website, but the male MUTO's similarities to Mothra are most likely just coincidental. While Mothra has always been depicted as a giant, colorful moth that acts as a benevolent guardian, the MUTOs are hostile, parasitic creatures which are not insects and feature bodies almost entirely black in color. The belief that Gigan and Rodan are MUTOs also stems from some physical similarities between them and the MUTOs, such as the wings in Rodan's case and hook-like hands and slit-shaped eyes in Gigan's case, as well as two pieces of fan art by the user DopePope on DeviantArt, which depict Gigan and Rodan as MUTOs. Both Mothra and Rodan will be appearing in the sequel to Legendary Pictures' Godzilla. Funnily though, because of people wrongly calling the male MUTO Rodan when they saw this specific shot of the main trailer prior to the film's release, a meme hashtag, Rodan Confirmed, was spawned. The Rodan Confirmed meme made it so that Godzilla fans who found it silly that others thought the MUTOs were Rodan would ironically say Rodan was confirmed to be in Godzilla 2014. Alright, so we hope you all enjoyed this video. We went through some of the more prevalent Godzilla misconceptions, though there are still many more out there that need to be tackled. Those will be saved for a later time. We at Wikizilla.org thank you all so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.